This is my instant match reaction to the Tottenham Hotspur 1, Brighton and Hove Albion 4 Premier League game, the last game of the season. Tottenham actually played pretty well the first half, went in 1-0 up. Dominic Solanke with a penalty, put it in the top of the net. I have to say at this point, this result, I know the players have been drunk all week, I get it, but I have to say this does make it easier for Daniel Levy if he does want to dispense with the services of Ange Postecoglou. In the second half, Tottenham were abject. But the Spurs fans, I'm watching the Spurs fans now, and even though they've been beaten 4-1, they do not care a jot. They've all got their flags, and they're absolutely ready for the post-match presentation of the Europa League to the home fans. Listen, I actually have been saying all week that I thought Spurs would, the pressure would be off Spurs and they'd win this game quite comfortably. That looked like it was the case in the first half, but in the second half, the opposite. We conceded 2 goals from set pieces. We were second to pretty much every ball throughout the game. And Brighton thoroughly deserved it. I don't really care. I went into this game feeling like Daniel Levy was in a bit of a horrible predicament about Big Ange Postecoglou. Daniel Levy then released his, pre-final game of the season program notes where he said, "Thank you, Ange," but he didn't really back him in a big way. And I do fear for Ange Postecoglou a little bit now. It will be easier if Daniel Levy does choose to dispense with him after that. What I would say, though, is if he is going to sack the manager now after winning a trophy, he has to have someone lined up who will excite the fan base. Otherwise, I really don't know. Daniel Levy is literally only just as a result of winning that Europa League dragged himself back from the fire in terms of how much the Spurs fans hate him as a chairman. Now we've won the Europa League trophy. You've got that trophy that, the fans always have a go at Daniel Levy about not having got anything for so long. And then he's in a predicament where he could lose a lot of goodwill for sacking the manager. However, losing 4-1 in this game, I think, does make it easier. The usual old faults were there, bad defending from set pieces, kind of quite uninterested defending in general in that second half. As Brighton celebrate. Malaysia player sent a super chat. Thank you so much. Says Ange's last gift to the club, a reality check. It is a bit of a reality check. We do concede too many goals. I don't know. It's difficult. It's difficult. I cried when Daniel Levy sacked Maurizio Pochettino. And I know Maurizio Pochettino had been, he'd been touting about for other roles. He was interested in the Manchester United role. He had talked about how if we'd won that Champions League final, he would have left the club. And that kind of made it easy for Daniel Levy to sack him then. I don't think I would cry if Ange Postecoglou lost his job. But I do think, Ange has the right to pitch for his job again. Ange has the right to say to Daniel Levy, this is what I would change next season. Ange Postecoglou has the right to say, this is what needs doing. And hopefully Daniel Levy gives him that meeting and that gives him that option to pitch for his job again. But like I said, I can't stop coming back to the fact that there are other teams. I'll give you an example. When Man United won, I think it was their first Premier League trophy back in the early 90s. They'd already won it, and they played Blackburn on the final day at home. Blackburn, who were a really good team back then. And the players have said since, in many documentaries I've seen and stuff, how they were all just absolutely smashed for the few days before, absolutely hungover. They turned up against Brighton. They beat them 3-1. They let Gary Pallister take a free kick in the last minute because he was the only player who hadn't scored a goal that season, and he scored it. So these games can get won by players who have been out on the lash for days. That does happen, but today, in the second half, Tottenham didn't show any fight whatsoever. And there have just been too many games this season where Tottenham have showed no fight whatsoever in the Premier League. And Ange will say in his meeting with Daniel Levy, oh, well, that is because of, the injuries and the Europa League. But the reality is, as I see the table, Spurs finished 17th on 38 points, didn't make it to 40 points, 11 wins, 22 defeats. 22 defeats. And when he has that meeting with Daniel Levy, that is going to be a struggle to talk off. Because it's one thing finishing 8th and just outside the Champions League places, but winning a Europa League trophy that gets you into it. But to finish 17th, some would argue, those who are definitely Ange out, would argue to Daniel Levy, that is putting the future of the club at risk. And I can see it from both points of view. I really can. But I don't think Ange has helped her. And at this moment, I would be erring right now. And I know I'm being reactive because I've been talking all week how I desperately don't want it to happen. But at this moment, I would not be surprised in the slightest if at 9 o'clock this evening or 9 o'clock in the morning, we got that classic Tottenham Hotspur website tweet of club announcement. And it will be, I think, a very kind, if it did happen, a very kind message to Ange Postecoglou, but something alluding to the fact that we cannot put the future of the club in danger by coming anywhere near 17th in the Premier League again. But let's see what happens. Like I said, I wouldn't mind kind of either way. Let's see what happens. I think Ange should potentially be given the chance to rebuild. But Levy has been ruthless before. He sacked Jose Mourinho before a League Cup final. I've said this week on some of my live streams, but I'll say it again. What Levy has done differently this season for the first time is stick with a manager when he will have been tempted to sack him on many, many occasions. And maybe this is his last opportunity to be like, do I stick one last time and give him a chance to rebuild? Or is it just too much? Is it just too much? Jack Legros in the comments says, replacing Ange with no automatic replacement is ridiculous. Well, that's it. They will, I'm sure, have been doing their due diligence and speaking to agents of managers behind the scenes for a while now. But I don't think he can sack him without anyone lined up. But let's see what happens. In terms of like player ratings for today, Vicario, 6. Porro, 6. Van de Ven looked good. I'll give him a 6.5. Danso was all right, 6.5. Udogi, 4. I mean, he looked absolutely smashed. Gray had one of his better games in midfield, so I'll give him a 6.5. Bentancur looked good when he was on. I'll give him a 6.5. Sarr, 6. Tell, 6. Johnson, 4. Looked smashed. And Solanke, 6. Probably. Brighton in the second half just had too much legs for us. Obviously, they hadn't been traveling. They haven't played a game in the week. They haven't had any emotional, let alone physical exhaustion to deal with. In terms of if Ange were to be fired, in terms of where I would go next, Glasner would be top of my list. I've been saying that for a while. He's won the Europa League with Frankfurt. He's now won the FA Cup with Crystal Palace. He's clearly a good man manager. He's a little more pragmatic, but they still play good football. And I think Tottenham need to kind of keep going down the line of wanting to play attacking football, but also not in this kind of Ozzy Ardiles-esque, gung-ho way. And that is where Tottenham have to improve defensively. Just conceded far too many goals this season. And I think Tottenham have the players where they will kind of always score goals going forward with the squad they've got, and hopefully there'll be additions. But I don't know. Who knows what's going to come out? I mean, one thing that I'm clear about is Levy does need to come out and say something. He needs to come out and say something, even if it's, no, I'm supporting the manager. He reached his objectives, or he needs to come out and say, unfortunately, we cannot come 17th again. We've got Champions League next season, and we need something different. Anyway, guys, that has been my instant match review to the Tottenham Hotspur 1, Brighton and Hove Albion 4 game. Really enjoyed doing watch-alongs for you and all the content. There will be much Tottenham and transfer content this summer. So do press that subscribe button if you're not already a subscriber. Do press the like button on this video. Plenty of content coming your way. Listen, we won the Europa League. That's the important thing. We're in the Champions League. We had one of the great nights of my life. In fact, this last few days has been one of the great few days of my life. I'm not going to let that result kill it for me. Let's see what happens. Come on, you Spurs. And everyone, enjoy the summer. Tune in. Lots of content. I'll try and do more live streams as well. In fact, what I'll be doing is daily kind of transfer videos, starting with Tottenham transfer rumours, mostly midday, every day live on my channel. So keep an eye out for that. and get in the comments, and we'll be talking all summer. And hopefully there'll be some really exciting signings to talk about as we head towards the European Super Cup final in August. Great stuff. Let's see what happens. Come on, you Spurs.